Moonlight spilled across the narrow cobblestone street. Shadows stretched and twisted along the old buildings. Elena walked slowly, her heart beating unevenly in the quiet night. The air smelled of damp earth and distant smoke. A soft wind carried the faint rustle of leaves. She felt a presence behind her, subtle but undeniable. Her footsteps echoed, but another sound followed, lighter, almost gliding. She turned sharply, seeing nothing but the flicker of a lantern across the street. A shiver crawled up her spine. The shadows seemed to shift, moving against the natural flow of the moonlight. Her mind recalled his words from weeks ago, whispered under the same pale moon. Love could be a refuge, a shelter from the world. Or it could become a trap, a shadow hiding a darker truth. A sudden chill wrapped around her shoulders. Her hand tightened around the small pendant at her neck. It was his gift, a symbol of their love, but tonight it felt heavy and foreign. A sound of soft footsteps approached again, closer this time. Her breath caught in her throat. The street lamp flickered, casting brief flashes of silver and black. She saw a figure emerge, a familiar silhouette that made her heart leap. But the figure moved strangely, gliding across the stone as if detached from the ground. Elena felt both drawn to it and terrified. Her instincts screamed at her to run, yet her legs refused to obey. The figure stopped a few feet away. Moonlight revealed the face, and Elena gasped. The eyes she loved so dearly stared back, but something was wrong. A hollow emptiness replaced the warmth she remembered. A shadow seemed to pulse behind those eyes, dark and consuming. The air grew colder, and the night seemed to tighten around her. Her ears caught whispers, faint at first, then louder, echoing from the walls. Words of love twisted into threats, promises turned into curses. Elena stepped back, her heart pounding like a drum in the silence. The figure raised a hand slowly, deliberately. Shadows extended from its form, crawling along the ground like living fingers. Elena felt the weight of them pressing, pulling at her very soul. Her vision blurred as the moonlight flickered and dimmed. She realized this was not the man she loved, but something that wore his face. A sudden gust of wind slammed doors in the distance. Leaves swirled violently around her, and the figure advanced without a sound. Her body shook, paralyzed by fear and disbelief. The pendant in her hand grew unbearably hot, burning through her skin. It was as if it was warning her, screaming for her to act. Elena swallowed hard, forcing herself to take a step backward. The figure mirrored her movement, never breaking the unnerving calm. Its lips moved, whispering her name in the voice she knew so well. But each word carried a venom she could feel in her bones. The shadows around it stretched higher, darkening the street, swallowing the moonlight. Her mind raced, searching for reason or explanation. Everything she trusted felt hollow, distorted. The night air thickened, and every sound seemed amplified and distorted. She tried to scream, but only a faint whisper escaped her lips. The figure tilted its head, observing her with an inhuman patience. Then it lunged, not with force but with a slow, creeping inevitability. Elena stumbled backward, heart hammering, senses screaming. The cobblestones beneath her scraped her hands as she fell to the ground. The shadows reached her, wrapping around her legs, pulling her closer to the figure. Her breath turned sharp and ragged, every inhalation a battle against the fear consuming her. The moon emerged from behind a cloud, casting one last pale light on the street. In that light, Elena saw something terrifying. The face of the figure flickered, shifting. Between him and something unrecognizable. It smiled, a cruel, empty gesture that froze her blood. Her eyes darted around, searching for escape, but the alley offered none. The wind carried a whisper, faint yet clear, warning her. It was not the night, not the shadows, but love itself that had become dangerous. A love twisted, corrupted, hiding something dark beneath its gentle exterior. Elena realized the world she knew had shifted in an instant, leaving only fear and doubt. The figure advanced, and the shadows tightened the grip. Her fingers brushed the ground, cold and rough, as she tried to push herself away. The figure paused, tilting its head again, studying her like prey. A sudden screech from somewhere high above shattered the tension. The shadows recoiled slightly, as if afraid of the noise. Elena took the moment, pushing herself upright, adrenaline surging. But the street was long, narrow, and empty. Every step she took echoed in the suffocating silence. The figure moved silently, following her, never blinking, never faltering. Her heart threatened to burst from her chest, each beat echoing in her ears. Moonlight danced on the wet cobblestones, showing fleeting glimpses of horror. Elena stumbled into a doorway, panting, desperate for refuge. The figure paused at the street entrance, observing her patiently. The shadows around it wreathed, a living mass of darkness. Her eyes scanned the alley, seeking anything to help her survive. Then she noticed a faint glimmer, barely visible under the debris. The glimmer came from the pendant she clutched tightly. It pulsed gently, almost guiding her. A realization struck her: the love it represented might hold the key to escaping the shadows. But reaching it felt impossible with the figure so close. Her hands shook as she made a decision, summoning every ounce of courage she possessed. The shadows lurched forward, threatening to engulf her entirely. Elena lunged toward the faint light, hoping it was enough. Pain seared her palms as she touched the pendant against the cold stone. The figure let out a low, guttural sound, unlike any human noise she had heard. The shadows shivered, recoiling slightly from the pendant's warmth. Elena felt a surge of determination, fueled by fear and love alike. The moonlight intensified, casting long beams that illuminated the narrow alley. The figure hesitated, caught between the darkness and the lingering light of her heart. Elena realized this was her chance to confront the truth hidden in the shadows. She held the pendant tightly, feeling its warmth seep into her bones, giving her strength. The figure shifted its stance, unnervingly calm now, yet menacing. Elena knew she could not flee forever. The confrontation was inevitable. Every nerve screamed, every instinct warned her, yet she moved forward. The shadows pulsed in response, aware of her resolve. The night seemed to hold its breath, waiting for the moment of reckoning. The figure shifted its stance, unnervingly calm yet menacing. Elena took a slow step forward, holding the pendant tightly. Its warmth radiated through her fingers, spreading up her arms like fire. The shadows around the figure wreathed and flickered, as if alive. Every instinct screamed at her to retreat, but she refused. A sudden gust of wind rattled the windows of the surrounding buildings. It carried a faint whisper, almost like a warning from the pendant itself. Elena tilted her head, listening carefully, feeling the hairs on her arms stand upright. The street seemed to narrow, the buildings pressing closer with each heartbeat. The figure's eyes glinted in the moonlight, dark and hollow yet painfully familiar. Elena's mind raced. She tried to recall the man she loved, the warmth he had once given. But the figure before her was a distorted reflection, a shadow of that memory. A low hiss escaped from it, barely audible, yet it reverberated through her chest. The shadows stretched toward her, moving faster, their touch like icy fingers. Her heart pounded, and her breath became ragged, each inhalation sharp and painful. She lifted the pendant, letting the light from it spill across the cobblestones. The shadows recoiled slightly, almost imperceptibly, but enough to give her hope. The figure tilted its head, studying the pendant with a sinister curiosity. Elena felt an urge to step closer, to confront the thing that bore the face of her love. Her legs trembled, but she forced herself to move, one careful step at a time. The figure took a step forward too, its movement smooth, almost gliding over the stones. Every shadow around it seemed to pulse in time with its heartbeat. Elena's eyes darted around, searching for anything that could give her advantage. A narrow staircase appeared at the side of the alley, barely visible under the moonlight. It led to an old rooftop, possibly a way to escape the encroaching shadows. She bolted toward the stairs, adrenaline surging, pendant clutched like a shield. The figure followed silently, its presence heavy and suffocating. The shadows lunged toward her feet, trying to drag her down, but she leaped. The wind howled as she scrambled up the stairs, knocking loose stones under her hands. The pendant's glow grew stronger, illuminating the walls, casting away the creeping darkness. She reached the rooftop, gasping, heart hammering violently. The city below was empty, silent, bathed in cold moonlight. Elena glanced over her shoulder. The figure had not followed, but the shadows clung to the edges of the buildings. It was waiting, patient, like a predator, watching her every move. A sense of dread washed over her, stronger than any fear she had ever felt. The pendant pulsed again, warm and reassuring in her hand. It seemed to whisper a single word, almost imperceptible, urging her to act. Elena scanned the rooftop, looking for anything to defend herself. Broken tiles and scattered debris lay around, remnants of time and neglect. Her mind raced, calculating, searching for a plan, but the fear made everything slower. Suddenly, a shadow detached from the main mass, darting toward her with unnatural speed. Elena stumbled backward, clutching the pendant as if it were her only lifeline. The shadow hissed, a sound like wind tearing through dead leaves. It wrapped around her ankle, trying to pull her toward the edge of the rooftop. She kicked wildly, her foot connecting with the shadow, but it felt like striking smoke. A cold sensation crawled up her leg, creeping into her bones. Her skin prickled, her vision blurred, yet she refused to let go of the pendant. With a sudden surge of strength, she pulled herself free, scrambling toward the higher ledge. The shadow hissed and recoiled, then surged again with renewed intensity. Elena's chest burned as she gasped for air, realizing the danger was far from over. The figure appeared at the base of the staircase, arms stretched slightly outward. Its hollow eyes glimmered, reflecting the pendant's light in a way that made her stomach turn. It spoke, a voice both familiar and alien, echoing in the empty night. Elena's name rolled off its lips like a curse, each syllable sending shivers down her spine. The shadows shifted in response, writhing and coiling like snakes ready to strike. Her mind screamed at her to escape, but she felt trapped between the figure and the edge of the rooftop. The pendant pulsed stronger, hotter, almost burning her hand. She understood then that it was not merely a symbol of love but a weapon, a key to survival. With trembling hands, she held it high, letting the light spill outward. The shadows recoiled violently, hissing and twisting, unable to touch her under the glow. The figure let out a low, almost human groan, then faltered, stepping back. Its form shimmered, flickering between the man she loved and the monstrous shadow. Elena realized the power of the pendant depended on her belief, her courage, and her love. If she faltered, the shadows would overwhelm her completely. She gritted her teeth, focusing on the warmth in her chest, on the memory of him before the darkness. The shadows surged one last time, desperate, lashing at her from every corner. Elena braced herself, pendant raised, heart pounding in sync with the pulsing light. The figure screamed, a sound that split the night and echoed through the empty streets. The shadows wreathed violently, then began to retreat, melting back into the darkness from which they came. Elena collapsed to her knees, chest heaving, feeling the warmth of the pendant spread through her, steady and alive. The moonlight bathed the rooftop once more, calm and pale. The figure was gone, vanished like smoke carried by the wind. Elena stared at the pendant, its glow dimming to a gentle, reassuring warmth. The night was silent again, but the weight of what had happened pressed heavily on her chest. Her hands shook as she realized she had survived, but the shadows of love lingered, waiting for the next moment of weakness. Elena descended carefully from the rooftop, the pendant warm in her hand. The streets below were quiet, bathed in the soft silver light of the moon. Shadows lingered in corners, but they no longer reached toward her. Her legs trembled from the climb, from fear, and from the adrenaline that still pulsed through her veins. She paused under a street lamp, taking a deep breath. The city felt different now, older, quieter, and somehow alive with unseen eyes. For a long moment, she simply stood, listening to the gentle rustle of leaves and the distant hum of life. The fear that had gripped her so tightly now softened, replaced by cautious relief. Elena touched the pendant, feeling its warmth settle into her chest. It was more than a symbol of love, it was a reminder of her strength, her courage. The figure, the shadows, the nightmare of the night, she had survived them all. And yet, she knew that love could still carry danger, that darkness could hide behind the brightest light. A gentle breeze swept past her, carrying the faintest whisper of a familiar voice. It was soft, tender, and filled with something like forgiveness. Elena smiled faintly, tears gathering in her eyes. She understood now that she could honor the memory of love without letting it control her, without letting it destroy her. The moonlight illuminated her path as she began to walk. Each step felt lighter, steadier, as if the night itself was yielding to her resolve. Shadows followed at a distance, no longer threatening, simply existing. Elena knew they were part of life, part of love, a reminder of the balance between light and dark. She reached the quiet edge of the city, the first hints of dawn breaking the horizon. The sky blushed with gold and pink, and for the first time in hours, Elena felt peace. She held the pendant close, feeling its warmth and remembering the courage it had inspired. Love, she realized, was never just about joy, it was about facing fear, confronting shadows, and emerging stronger. Elena smiled to herself and continued walking, leaving the narrow streets and the dark memories behind. The night had tested her, shown her darkness in the shape of love, and she had endured. The moon set gently, the city waking, and the shadows faded quietly into the morning. For Elena, the night was over, but the lessons, the strength, and the warmth of love would remain forever. She disappeared into the soft light of dawn, the pendant glowing faintly, a silent promise of hope, courage, and the enduring power of love.